We're back, and one of the things that you had mentioned before about your thoughts and your day, deciding what your day is, I think a lot of times what people need to do first is find that stillness, right?
Yes.
Is to find that spot where, because we're so inundated with, you get up and like, especially a mother, you get up and instantly you're making lunches or taking care of the kids or, whatever. You don't give yourself that time to just be still. Men are the same way too. It's not like that, that we're out there.
No, it's all of us.
Everyone,
and it's
right?
all of us that in stillness we find answers. All of us.
And it's if you're not there yet, it sounds woo-woo. Like you sit in quiet and then all of a sudden you think someone's going to start talking to you. And if somebody
like your inner
starts
voices?
talking to you, you're going to feel like you're crazy.
Losing your mind.
And guess what? Everyone else will tell you you're crazy. And, you'll get a prescription for some sort of psychotic drug.
Yeah.
And then
of course,
it's over with.
They're handing them out like candy. You
Exactly.
can get one any day. Yeah.
So, it really is just an understanding of like, how does the energy, God, talk to you, your higher self,
It's
whoever
intuition.
the messages are, right?
Whatever that means to you. Yeah.
And in silence, in calmness, in separating yourself from all the stresses of the day and, whatever things you're dealing with. And therein lies a lot of the answers and the comfort and the rest.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario, you just rest. But
best case scenario, because rest is productive. And I think we forget that.
You're right. Yeah.
Rest is so productive. Because
all the
in
scenarios are good.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm thinking like, for somebody who's just like, well, why didn't all the answers of the world's troubles come to me in that
I was
peace?
resting.
But it was just like, maybe nothing has to happen. It's just a break. You're resting yourself. And
true.
In my exploration and like listening to stories of believing, having your mind open to anything, and seeing what we see now. And I was doing actually a cord cutting last night, which was helping somebody get off cable for streaming and all that.
Oh, good.
Because the Plymouth Rock TV, people ask me all the time, how do I see this? And I would say, how people aren't paying for cable anymore, and then we do the whole thing. So there's a presentation.
That's great. Yeah.
I was talking with them about like how the Wi-Fi and I was in one house in Plymouth. And nothing was working, technology, and I'm going, I've never had these problems before. Sort of like where we had, last time we tried to do this. And she goes, don't worry. She goes and she lights sage, and she said, there's a lot of spirits in this house that get in the way of the technology. Everything went perfect after that. She burned the sage. And I was telling this, and I could tell the people were just like, okay, this guy's a little bit out there.
Yeah.
But I was trying to say, look, 20 years ago, if I were to show Wi-Fi and cameras and wireless stuff, you'd think I was a wizard. It's so we believe things because they slowly come into our reality.
Yeah.
Like, just think of how miraculous it is that we can film and things go through the air and you can watch on your phone something.
I
and
agree.
like it's invisible, right? So why would it be even harder of a stretch to believe that there are powers, energy, angels, spirits all around us all the time, and we are in a lesser sensory sandbox of that.
I love that, sandbox, yeah.
And we're playing around, but there are other forces that are sort of guiding us that are more enlightened, enhanced, and even those near-death experience people that have said that when they were in these other realms, that it was clearer, more smells they never smelled before, colors that they never saw before, music, everything was music and vibration and frequency.
Vibration and frequency.
Everybody would say that too. They're like, the grass was singing. Like they would be in the most majestic and
Have
glorious.
you ever seen that? They have microphones they can put to a plant and it will show you the sound that comes from, so everything sings.
Yeah.
Everything's a frequency.
Yep.
It's an amazing thing.
One of the best, and I'm going to get to my point, but one of the best things that I heard, I thought was fascinating, was like somebody had said the smell was nothing like they ever experienced before, and it was because there was no death, right? And we smell here decay. Even the smell of fresh cut grass, which we like, is death. It's the cutting of the grass, leaves in the fall, decomposing. Everything is dying.
That's so interesting. So if you can picture just pure life, what that would be, it's
right.
got to be something
like,
we can't understand.
And they can't
so
put words
amazing.
to it. Right.
Yeah, just a high frequency.
So
right.
I feel like the magic of everything is so wonderful, right? And we we see stories about people that have superpowers and all this stuff, and you instantly throw it away, right? But I feel our eyes are a two-way street. We think that we're taking things in, but I think we're also pushing things out. And that's where our thoughts, like it's a window, right? So it's just like a laser would go out and energy goes out. Why aren't our eyes also, and if you think of it that way, you can start to project and be like, all right, I can put thoughts out there. I can put, because you hear of people who can read minds, and yeah, there's a lot of like, charlatans and stuff, whatever, that kind of thing exists, and magic, illusions and things. But I do think that there is the ability where people can create their reality by having their machine of their brain, right? Because that's what that is, the most powerful creation machine we have. And we push it out through our eyes.
You're
right?
not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. So what you're discussing, in essence, is really quantum physics.
Yeah.
Right? And it really is. What you're talking about, like this soulful sort of energetic transference or whatever. But it really is. We are all energy, all of us, and this is why, and many people listening have heard this. I always say listening because I come from radio, but watching. You are a combination or a collection of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Because your energy is being influenced at all times by those people. We're all a sponge, and it's a give and take, right? So, and we talked a little bit about this. And using easy math, quantum physics means that, for example, if you're a positive person, you're a +1, and if I'm a positive person, I'm also a +1. Together, because we're interacting, we're a +2. But we've all met the people that just rub us the wrong way. They're not, their energy's off, and we can feel it. Maybe there's envy. Maybe there's, maybe they're just not a good person. You can feel it, right? And so we'll call them a -1. And we all know those characters in our lives. So if I'm that person right now, and you're a +1 and I'm that person, so I'm a -1, by being together, we're a 0. So if you look at it like that, again, it's a game.
Yeah.
Self-reflection is so important because if you look at who you spend time with, are you better for having been with them, or do you feel depleted? Kind of taking that reflection and using it in real time to make better decisions. Who should you be spending time with? You know the people that light you up, or the situations. I don't like doing this. Maybe it's your job, and not all of us have a chance to quit our job and do our passion project. But if you don't, then make sure energetically, if that's draining you, what are you doing to then refill it? Are you going home and connecting with your wife or your husband? Are you going home and doing something meaningful? Is it a hobby? Do you play guitar? Do you like to sing? Do you like to paint or draw? Are you making time to get your frequency back up? Because you are as responsible for that frequency. You're the only one who's responsible for that frequency, right?
Yep.
Own it and pay attention. And the food you eat, are you gonna eat that Big Mac and, feel like a sloth after and just you put nothing in you that makes you feel nourished?
I love Big Macs. I love them. I'm sorry.
I love them.
I love them.
But once a year, that's all we need. So it lowers your frequency though. The things that you put in your body, the things that you put near your body, it's all your control.
Yeah.
So if you put something in that's made organic and it's fresh and it's farm to table, and you know how you feel when you eat it, you're like, oh my God, every morsel, you feel better.
Yeah,
right?
In the gratitude of it, and I've really had to remind myself how fortunate we are that we can just grab a bottle of water and drink it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
How people,
Right.
even to this day,
We're not starving,
would
and
have
we're
to
not
find water.
Right, we're not killing
know?
cattle to just go and figure out how to then make a meal for my family. No,
Right,
it's
and
not
so
like
the
that.
gratitude of that, and even just I remember going out to dinner as a kid, and I thought it was a big deal.
Me too.
And then you go out now, and you're just like, it's
Kids
just
don't even understand.
throwing food in your
Yes.
mouth, and those simple things are mood enhancers, are
Yes.
frequency lifters.
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so. It is so
And you
important.
sent me that song.
Do you love it?
I did.
Yes.
And
Grateful I woke up
Grateful.
again.
Yep. And
Right?
I'll put a link in the in the bio. For that
Grateful
song.
I took a breath again.
Yeah.
So to the people who are struggling, and again, it like it has been me too. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm without struggle. These tools are tools for life. Life happens. Life mastery is really self-mastery. It doesn't mean that I'm going to avoid any struggles. It doesn't mean that my life is always happy. It means that when that happens, I'm still grateful and I can still reach for one good thought.
Yeah.
And then that leads to the next good thought, because I'm a magnet for what I am, right? And I gave you that example on Thanksgiving morning this year. And I woke up, and I can see the ocean when I wake up, which is, I think, soul medicine, right? Because the flow of the ocean, and it's so expansive and huge. And it was a lifelong dream. Again, I think we talked a little bit about manifestation.
Right.
That was something I always dreamt about. And it did happen. And it has been medicine that I think I really needed. So I woke up, and I was like, thank you, God. And I have 3 beautiful daughters who are healthy and they're happy. What's better than that, right? So I woke up and I just felt so good, so grateful. And then I got a text that just sent me to the bottom. And I could feel myself then composing a response, and I was angry, and I could feel my energy, my frequency drop. My muscles tensed, all of my body was supporting me because, again, fight or flight, right? So now I'm in fight or flight. That cortisol is tensed every muscle, and I'm ready for battle. And I just had that self-reflection, and I was like, what just happened? 1 minute ago, I literally had a little smile on my face, and it was like, wow, this is so, grateful on Thanksgiving. And then I made a choice, and I said, I deleted the text. I never sent it. And I put my phone down, and I was like, God, get me back to where I woke up. That feeling of gratitude. I just want to feel that again. And it's a choice. And so I remembered the thing I was grateful for, the many things I was grateful for. And immediately my body softened. And immediately I felt better. And I did not allow those thoughts the rest of the day. Like the radio station. It was like, if that was the bad song, I just didn't listen to it.
Right.
And I chose the music that made my frequency feel good. And we had the most amazing Thanksgiving. But again, it's like that radio show I told you about. Take my advice, I'm not using it. It would have been so easy for me to write that text and get the last word and be the person. Not the last word, but you know what I mean. And I chose otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I took my advice that I would tell you to do. And watching it in real time work, it made me laugh because I was like, wait, I think I better raise my prices. Like it really works. Mm-hmm. And it's not hard. And I didn't solve my life problems in that one moment. I only looked at the moment I was in. And that is my hope. Anyone watching us, I'm not asking for your life to be solved by this one episode, but maybe you got present with us. Maybe you got a little reflective. Maybe you got a little curious. And maybe you reached for one better thought, like changing the radio station, so that this moment was better than it would have been if you hadn't listened to us.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that, our goal of doing this better for the metaphor concept of being, using real life experiences to apply deeper meaning so that we can take very, very complex issues and be like, okay, I understand it now because this is, for me, it helps explain things, at least my thoughts, because I think that way, and you probably do too. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a helpful way to try to convey a complex, deep concept.
Right.
And even the notion of us being in this soul school. There's a great guy who's out there. His name is Christian Sundberg. You should get a chance to listen to him. And he's just an average guy, but he has pre-birth experience memories of when he came here to this frequency and talked about how it is a choice and a blessing to be here, and we choose every single thing that goes on in our life. And you go, why would I choose this? Well, because the same reason you'd go to the gym, and we've had said this conversation, and you go and lift weights, right? And why would anybody just have a tremendous amount of weights on them? And like, what are you doing it for? You're doing it for something else. But that something else is important. And he talks about how everyone comes to this earth human existence to experience different things, and you might go through multiple lives to try and solve a problem. It could be dealing with rejection or dealing with frustration or a million things. I mean, it could be a million.
Well, I think you go through many lessons. Like I said, to your point, I don't want to interrupt you, but just the point about a video game, if you don't learn the lesson, you'll stay on that level and
Yeah.
you'll get it again in this lifetime
Yep.
over and over again.
And that's what he talks
Yeah.
about. It's like it's like a video game, and then other people say it's like a simulation, or it's like it's like a stage, and we're
It
the
really
actors,
is.
and all of these things. And
Yeah.
they go back to the answer of like, there's no judgment in the afterlife,
Right.
right? Because sin is a missing of the mark. It's us getting
Sure.
better and practicing and stuff. And so, if we're able to generate our thoughts around the fact that, hey, look, what are the lessons I'm trying to learn?
Totally.
Which gives real comfort to the problems you're going through. Like, okay, maybe I just need to figure out what my reaction to this is. Because a lot of times people's soul journey is to how they handle complex or problematic situations.
So reaction is a word that we often talk about in my coaching. We want to respond and not react. And so to your point, yes, reflecting on the reaction becomes the response.
And your reaction to that text was beautiful, because it also saved the day of your daughters and whoever else you were going to be around, because they could easily say like, geez, Sharmin's just not herself, and then everybody
Said it was their favorite
Yep.
Thanksgiving. But you know something? I went downstairs and I told my daughters what had just happened. Again, I think we have to share with our kids, because they are our greatest teachers, but they're looking to us as an example, right? So I am not perfect. I fumble all the time. And I composed the response text. I didn't send it though. So if this were a video game, I went to the next level. I got a new tool, right?
Yep.
But if I had sent it, I repeat it. And guess what? I would be stuck on this low level of this game, and then later in the day I'd get another example of where I could react or respond. And hopefully the next time I do better, right? So in every moment you can choose again, or I always say in every breath you can start again, right? But yeah, making that course correction, instead of reacting, responding, get really reflective. How is that going to make me feel? And we're human, we're going to fumble. But so then take the lesson that you learned, like, yeah, I ruined Thanksgiving, and don't do it again, because the lesson will repeat itself. Like that man said to you, like, you either live many lifetimes trying to live this soul's journey, or you do it in this lifetime, and you can do it over and over and over in one day.
Yeah, it's another analogy that he said. It's like going to a horror movie.
Yeah.
Why would you choose to go to a horror movie? Well, because it's an hour and a half long. You want to be frightened and scared, but then you walk out and life is normal. So when we come here, let's say it could be a horror movie.
It can
but
be.
Time
Feels
is
like it
infinite,
sometimes,
right?
yeah.
And so, and the other experiences that near-death experiencers have had has said that time is like such a construct of humankind. Like they feel like they come here to Earth and it's a flash, right?
Yeah.
And life does seem like it goes by 100 miles an hour. So why wouldn't it be completely plausible that we would come here for a really bad experience because we go see a movie about somebody suffering with cancer and we feel and we empathize and we cry and then we leave and then we're back. So why not this being the theater we're watching the movie, which we're immersed in,
We're all the bad actors.
and then
yeah.
we leave,
Yeah.
and then we're back in that stable place
That's a great
of love.
metaphor.
Right.
What I love that. Okay, so if this is our theater, right, and we're all just actors playing a part, then wow, like why not make this a show that's the feel-good movie of the year?
Sure.
Like, why would we make it scary? Why let it be scary? And when the scary thing happens, why can't we believe that we're all kind of superheroes that can, like, well, we're going to, because we can save ourselves in any moment with a better thought. That's
Yep.
all it takes.
Yeah. And,
You know?
and if we're aware that we're writing the script,
Yeah.
right? Write the script then. And like worst case scenario, you just wrote a better outcome. And if it doesn't happen, okay, but I'm sure it will.
To your point,
You
if
know?
we're watching a movie, why do we feel like, when we're watching the real classics, and, what are some of the ones that are like tearjerkers? I can't even think of one. Terms of Endearment, like an old one. There's a classic. Do you remember see that one?
I know of it.
But there's just movies
Yeah.
that make us cry. And why do we like that? Because we feel something. Like you said, the movies with
Rudy.
cancer, Rudy, the dog. No, that's football.
The football player,
Football,
yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So, but we like that because we feel something. But guess what? We have the ability to share with people like we're doing right now. And in that human connection, that story, that's where we learn compassion in real time. It's in our own bodies. We're
Yeah.
experiencing it in our own lives, and empathy and seeing yourself in others. I always tell my clients, our story is the heaviest thing that we can hold. When we share it and we tell that story, it allows us to put it down. When we hold it inside, the longer we hold it, like you talked about going to the gym, right? And if you're lifting a weight, say it's just, barbell, it's 10 pounds, like it's easy, right? But the longer you hold it, and if you just keep doing reps, it's getting heavier. Eventually your arm's shaking and you're like, I think I'm done on these reps. But what if I told you, you can't put that down? Yeah. You just got to keep going. You would be like, sorry, I cannot. I'm rendered immobile. That is exactly what happens to us when we carry our story. The longer we carry it by ourselves, without sharing it, without seeking therapy or seeking journaling or seeking some way to put it down, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And we are rendering ourselves immobile eventually because it holds us so still. We're inundated with pain or sadness or loneliness or whatever about our story. But when we share it, not only do we have that human connection, now that we've shared this experience, but you allowed me to put it down. So now I'm lighter, I feel better, but you feel connected to me. My frequency just went up because you heard me and you supported me. Your frequency went up because you held and supported me. If it's a movie, we all just feel better.
And the gym analogy keeps, there's so many things because your muscle has to tear and rip and be destroyed
you have to go
before
through some
it grows.
Pain.
And you have to go through the pain and you have to go through the, pushing through that to get to the other side, which might be vanity, which isn't not necessarily the good thing, but like that's how a muscle grows.
Maybe it's strength, which is positive. I mean, maybe it's you look good, you feel good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Self-love,
It goes back to our lives. If you think that when you're born, that was the beginning, and when you die, that's the end, and there's nothing else before or after, life doesn't make sense.
No, and it can be that kind of a void experience if that's what you look for.
Yeah. But I think that we come here with our minds erased, like going to an escape room.
I agree.
We go to escape rooms, those fun places, and you try to figure out the puzzles to get out. If that was real life, or if you treated it like real life, like if we don't get out of here, we're going to suffer or die, it would be a horrendous experience. But it's how we look at it that we say, all right, it's fun almost.
The lens you see it through colors your reality, and you have a choice what lens you're using.
Yep.
So, and you can change it. If people are watching right now and, and they're all pissed off and maybe they're late for work and they know they're getting fired today and maybe their marriage is in shambles and maybe their kids are off the rails, and that could be a lot of bad to hold, right? But in one moment, if you realize that the lens I see it through, because if you say it's all bad, that's exactly what it's going to be. If you believe it, thoughts become things. But if you say, what is this trying to teach me? If you say, if this is for me and not to me, what am I learning? Am I stronger? Am I learning patience? I've been through a lot and I'm still getting up in the morning. I am stronger than I thought. Or wait, I did kind of just get this, new connection at work, and I don't know. There is always one thing you could look at, and the minute you shift, the minute you pivot, everything changes because you just chose a different lens.
And the worst things that happen to you, viewed through the wrong lens, can be catastrophic. But
absolutely,
there's so many things if we can look at the big picture, but that gets hard when you're in that dark.
It gets hard, but it's
spot.
funny. Sometimes, we've all been in the car where we almost get in an accident and we say, oh, must have had an angel with me. We all tend to go there, but we don't see it in our day-to-day. And there's a story I've never told you this story, but it is kind of what put me back on my path, because I did lose my path. And again,
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
Right.
But, so I told you I wanted to go back to become a yoga teacher, but I didn't tell you the spark that lit that candle. We were in New York City with another family, and we were there because we were supposed to be in Storyland. That like
in
cute
North
little,
Conway?
yeah.
Okay.
And our kids were small, and this was our third year in a row that we were going. And but a week before the trip, their daughter broke both her arms. Again, one of those scenarios, right? And my kids were like, well, we can't go because that would make them feel bad. And my kids were so sweet in saying that, and they were right, and so we canceled. So we decided to go to New York, just us. And then another couple of ours, a different family, said, well, let's go together. Great, let's go to New York. And then I thought, the original family, I should call them, because you can go to New York with broken arms. And we like to go. We'd been many times. This other family had never been. And I called them and I said, look, this is really random, but we're going to go to New York this weekend. Why don't you join us? Again, they'd never been. She said, you're kidding me. I just hung up the phone with the Times Square Marriott. We're going to New York this weekend. Amazing. But because we'd been so many times and they had never been, I knew that they'd want to do their own thing, kind of do some sightseeing that we had already done. So I said, okay, this is so beautiful. You guys go, but let's have dinner in Little Italy together. Let's all get together, and that'll be so fun. So that was our plan. And this is a really painful story, but again, everything is beautiful because there's so much meaning in life, right? And this became the most definitive, soul-crushing, yet soul-redefining moment for me, and I think my entire family. My friend's husband had a catastrophic heart attack in Times Square just before dinner. I'm probably going to cry. And we weren't with them because we had not met up yet. And me being a nurse, I probably would have jumped in and tried to save him, right? But it was a widowmaker, as they call it, and so there would be no saving, but that would have been on my heart for the rest of my life. But this happened, and in that moment in Times Square, my girlfriend, who had 3 children, has 3 children. At the time, they were 1, 5, and 7, I believe. And the baby in her arms, she's screaming and crying, and a woman walks up to her and she says, how can I help? What can I do? And she hands her the baby and she says, what else can I do? And she says, can you call his mom? And she says, yes. She gives the number, and it's a Pittsburgh number. And the stranger on the street says, I'm from Pittsburgh. I have a private plane. I'll fly his mother here. That was a random stranger. So that was miracle number 1. Miracle number 2, we stayed the night. Thank God we were there because we stayed in their hotel room. That's so sad. With their 3 kids. Sorry. So that my friend could stay with him. But that's a miracle because she could not be alone in that moment. So we were in their room with their babies, and she was there. The family arrives the next day, and they go into the cab, which picked them up in the hospital district. And if you know New York, it's nowhere near Times Square.
Right.
Very far apart. So they get in a cab with flowers and Sharpies because they're going to go sign the sidewalk where it happened and say their goodbyes. They get in the cab, and my friend, who had never been to New York, realizes she doesn't know where she is. She thought she would remember, but she was so traumatized she forgot. The cab driver says, ma'am, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but was he wearing plaid shorts? And she says yes. And he said, I drove by yesterday when that happened, and something told me to remember. It was on the corner of Houston and whatever. So think about how many cabs are in New York. Think about how, right? So the one that remembered picked her up and brought her to the exact spot where it happened. And now they're there, and now they're laying flowers down, and they're crying, and they're saying goodbye, and she realizes she left her camera in that cab. But that's okay. Like, that's the least of their concerns. But they did want those parting photographs. It's all they had, but that's okay. That's the least of their concerns. A photographer walks up and says, this is obviously a very heart-wrenching moment, and if you'd like, I can photograph it for you and send you the photos, which they did. And so for me, it was the most soul-crushing, heartbreaking event of our lives, but it was so easy to see how divinely orchestrated it was. And like, I had always believed in God, but I had never really gone to church. I had faith in nursing school. Something bigger than me got me through and made me feel less alone, and it was my strength. But this was like black and white. And even the atheists in my life were like, okay, that's interesting. Like, wow, can't really argue with it. And I realized if it was true for us in that moment, them especially, it's true for all of us. And there are moments that are so easy to see, but it's always happening. There's always this divine orchestration of people and events. And I always tell my clients, like, I believe that God uses people. So it's just your people that you're interacting with. It might be the guy at the store. It might be your boss. It might be the stranger. But there's people that say things or do things that are specifically for you. If you believe that life is happening for you, not to you, then and you start to begin to see the world that way, it's miraculous. And then it feels easier and it feels lighter. And so that's what put me back on the map, because my friend Dave had just had a perfect physical. His doctor said at 40 years old, he was just turned 40, and he said, you're perfectly healthy. And a week later, we lost him. So I, in homage to Dave, said, I need to live today. And what does living look like? Not just getting out of bed and doing the things remotely that I have to do, but how do I find meaning? and a deeper connection to the people in my life. And how do I feel fulfilled? And I'm going to do that for Dave. And I'm going to live every day in a bigger way, in a more complete way, in a deeper way. And I'm going to help people do the same. And so I went to Marshall's and I bought one of those signs that I think they're kind of out of style now, but that said live, you know, and I put that in front of me, and that's when I enrolled in yoga school, and that's where the rest of this began. But it was finding a belief that it was all divinely orchestrated that really made me say, if it's true for him, it's true for all of us.
It's beautiful, and it's the divine perfection that is beyond what we can comprehend and understand.
Right.
And just the choice of believing that it meant something as opposed to just being
How horrible.
a string of coincidences gave meaning to your friend's life and to, it's just a beautiful story, because I think that we all have things like that all the time because it's all divinely laid out for us more than we're capable of even understanding. You
Right.
know?
Right.
You know, that was great, and I think that this is going to be, and we could literally be here for 12 hours talking, and you know,
could.
I want to hold some back because I
Yeah.
have more of those. As you're telling it, I'm
Yeah,
going.
you're like, wait, yeah.
and there's connections even.
So
you know,
cool. Yeah.
eventually, it's like we'll find our divine stories have crossed paths, and we do have this one that how we even came together with this, but. Thank you so much. This was
Yeah.
great. By the way, your services that you offer. Let's
Thank
talk
you.
about that.
Yeah. So I do life coaching, and it's one-on-one. It's really just helping people get out of their own way and finding meaning and deeper connection in their life. So you can find me on Instagram, Sharmin_Wengender, and there's more to come. And I do workshops and public speaking as well. But yeah, if you want to work with me, that's the way.
Special Sharmin, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
All
This is
right.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah.